Wonder Woman is the fourth installment of the DC Extended Universe. This movie's directed by Patty Jenkins, and Gal Gadot returns once again as Wonder Woman. And even though we were introduced to her in Batman vs. Superman, this movie is all about her origin story, where she came from, of the island of Themyscira, where she was trained by a bunch of other Amazon warriors. So pretty much her whole life has been training to be this epic warrior. But then one day a World War I spy named Steve Trevor, played by Chris Pine, crash lands on the island, which is supposed to be hidden from the rest of the world, and he informs them that there is a war going on to end all war. And Diana's horrified by this news. She wants to go out and save the people, so she and Steve Trevor embark on this adventure to the World War, and the adventure continues from there. The DC Extended Universe is a little complicated. I like Man of Steel. It's definitely not perfect, and I don't love it. It definitely has some problems, but I honestly don't get a lot of the hate for that movie. Overall, I think it's a decent movie. Batman vs. Superman, however, I can definitely see the hate for that. And then there's Suicide Squad, which is the worst thing that they've done. So going into this movie, I was very skeptical, because even though this is from a different director, and even though the trailers made it look better, the trailers for Suicide Squad and Batman v Superman also looked really good, so I had to reserve most of my excitement for this movie, and I made this one vow that if this movie turned out to be as disappointing as BVS or Suicide Squad, then I was no longer going to be anticipating Justice League later this year. And walking out of this movie, I was so pleased, because this movie is the best DC Extended Universe film that we've gotten easily. Patty Jenkins is literally the best thing to happen with DC right now. She has perfectly crafted the DC film that other DC movies falling in line have to take notes from. Literally, one major change she made actually affects the movie in a lot of ways, and that is just the color. It's vibrant, it's bright, you can see things more clearly, and it's all visually interesting. This is something that Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and even frickin' Suicide Squad has failed on. The color grading for all of those movies is all pretty bad. They all have this kind of gray tone going on, and Suicide Squad is just, for the most part, completely dark. But in this movie, you can actually tell when things are going on, even in scenes where it takes place in the dark. It's well lit, and the cinematography is good. You can comprehend what you're seeing. The island of Themyscira has a really neat look to it. The sets are really great, and the costume design is spectacular. And there's this one great battle that takes place on the beach that is so stunning to watch, where all the Amazon warriors are taking on this army with guns, with the bow and arrows and the swords. It's so amazing to me how just one simple change actually affected a lot of the movie, this time in a positive way. Patty Jenkins did a great job with that. She knew exactly what this movie had to be in order to save this franchise, pretty much. But even when they do get to the World War I stuff, they have to present that as kind of dreary and miserable, and they do that, and it gets a little darker, but at the same time you can still see what's going on. The cinematography is on point. That's the perfect way of having a dark scene, yet not overdoing it like Zack Snyder would do. Like, for example, in Batman v Superman, the movie is so dark and gray that the Wonder Woman costume itself didn't even look as colorful as it does in this movie. The costume in this movie looks so much better because of just the color. And speaking of Wonder Woman herself, Wonder Woman is literally written to perfection here, mainly because she is the first superhero in the DC universe to actually want to save people. Man of Steel, Superman was really conflicted about saving people all the time. It was really depressing. Batman v Superman, they're continuing on, oh, Superman's bad, and Batman, he's not wanting to be that good anymore, he's killing people. And then in Suicide Squad, the whole movie's about bad guys saying, hey, we're the bad guys. This movie actually has a character who says, no, I want to help people. You're watching this character and you don't feel any amount of depression. You are just really connected because she sets out to save people. She's really naive when it comes to the new world because she's a fish out of water, which was done really well. In a lot of other movies, this can get really annoying, but they actually did write these scenes fairly well. And Gal Gadot's performance really captured the kind of innocence that someone like Wonder Woman would have going into this whole new world that she's never had the chance to be a part of because she's been on this really cool island with these Amazon warriors. And Gal Gadot really just proves herself to be the best Wonder Woman that we could have gotten. I liked her in Batman v Superman, wanted to see more of her, and I'm so glad we got to see more of her because she's actually tons better in this movie. I'm glad she got her own movie because she's actually pretty interesting a character. And Chris Pine, I was a little worried that he was just going to be Chris Pine, you know, super charming dude. And for the most part, that is his personality, that he is charming as Steve Trevor. But they do a little bit more with his character. For instance, his interactions with Wonder Woman herself. These two work very well together. There is some, you know, chemistry relationship-wise going on, which was pretty cute and surprisingly funny. There's actual funny lines in this movie. It's not like Suicide Squad where it's awkward. There's actual funny jokes. Oh my god. But then there's also some moments where their relationship would actually get pretty dramatic and a little touching, and it was really sweet, honestly. Another thing I really need to praise in this movie is the script. And it's not because it's one of the best screenplays ever written, it's just that it's not convoluted, and it doesn't feel like there are so many writers contributing that it just turns out a mess. The script, though I will admit, there are some moments in the movie where it did kind of slow down a bit, like, okay, you're kind of losing me here. But besides those kind of slow moments, the script actually feels like a script and not just a hodgepodge of a bunch of stuff coming together just to shoehorn in Justice League references or Batman references or Aquaman stuff. This is all just about Wonder Woman's origins. They don't really try to connect it to the upcoming Justice League movie or anything like that. You could literally watch this movie without knowing Man of Steel or Batman v Superman, and you'd be fine. So that's something I really do need to praise the screenplay for, because it knew exactly what it had to do. And even during those slow moments, I can understand where some people will say that it is more character building moments going on there, which I can agree with. It's just that there are some parts where I thought, okay, we can kind of move on now from this one specific part. For the most part, the movie flowed really well, especially being 2 hours and 20 minutes around that. And the action scenes in this movie are the best action scenes in the entire DC universe. It's really well done stuff. Patty Jenkins had a great directorial style with this film, and there's one sequence that is the standout of this movie. You'll probably remember this scene probably as one of the best scenes to come from a comic book film, where basically Wonder Woman gets up out of the trench and walks through no man's land. That is some incredible stuff right there. That is a scene that a lot of people are going to be talking about years to come. That's my prediction, and I think I'm right in that, because that scene is so well done. And the action scenes in this movie all show off how awesome Wonder Woman can be. In BVS, she was fighting a CGI monster, which is kind of lame, but in this movie, she's actually fighting people, and whenever she punches someone or deflects the bullets, kicks chairs at people, it is incredible. You can feel the hits. That feels like it hurts, but it's so satisfying to watch. It's so well choreographed, too. Although I do have to complain a little bit, because even though I think this movie overall, Zack Snyder should take notes from, but there's definitely some moments where you could feel the Zack Snydering going on. There's an excessive amount of slow-mo. At times it's pretty cool, but then as it goes on and on, you're like, okay, we did not need a slow-mo shot for that. And there's moments where you can tell when people are being replaced with CGI bodies, and if you're going to do that, that's fine, just make it look convincing, and it did not look that convincing to me. And in the beginning of the movie, when you have young Diana Prince, and by the way, the young child actor is pretty bad in the beginning part of the movies, but that's not a big part of it. There's a moment where she has to jump from one platform high up to another one down below, and when she jumps, the green screen was like, oh my god, that was pretty bad. But for the most part, the visual effects were actually pretty good too, and the action scenes were really well filmed. Patty Jenkins had a great sense of how to do those. My overall big problem with this movie, I guess you could say, is that the villain roles are pretty underwritten. And I don't want to say much about the villains because you can, in a sense, say that it's spoiler-ish territory. I don't want to say too much about it. I honestly don't know what I can say. All I will say is that there's one scene where two of the villains just gassed a bunch of people, and they're locking them in, and they threw in a gas mask, and one of the villains is like, they will think that that will protect them, but little do they know, it won't, and then the two villains get together and go, It was like the generic cheesy bad guy laugh, where they're in a dark corner and they did something dark and they laugh about it. Like, that is so cheesy, and it just really showed how lame these villains kind of are. I think they could have been really cool, but it just kind of proved to me that the writers didn't really know how to make these villains work or anything like that, so they just resorted to the evil generic bad guy laugh. But that's pretty much my major flaw with this movie. Combine that with the excessive slow-mo, some green screen obvious CG shots, and some slow pace here and there. This movie is a lot of fun, which is what these DC movies need to be. Wonder Woman isn't perfect. I wouldn't say it's one of the best comic book films I've ever seen, but I can say that it's better than Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I'm gonna give Wonder Woman a B+. Gal Gadot and Chris Pine are great in this film. They work so well with each other, but even individually as their own characters, they work very well. The action's a lot of fun. The visual effects at times are really great. And Patty Jenkins, I hope she remains involved with stuff going on in DC because she has a great talent. You can really tell she has a good sense of how things are supposed to go down. So please, DC, keep her around because I think she's a great influence on you guys. But if you've seen Wonder Woman, leave in the comments below what you thought of it. Also, 2 announcements. 1, please subscribe to a friend of mine. Flicks with Joe is the channel. His name is Joe and he reviews movies like myself. He's just getting started on that channel and I think he's doing pretty well for himself, so go check him out. The card or whatever, link in the description, whatever. Click one of them. And also, me and my friends in a film forum have created a film awards show, and though I will not be on said show, I have helped create the awards for it. This has been postponed for a long time now, but finally we're getting it together, and I'm offering the poll up to you guys. You can vote for what you want, and I will make a video announcement saying, hey, you can watch the awards show here and where, whatever. So go ahead, click on the link for Flicks with Joe channel, subscribe, and click on the link to vote for the Filmtastic Forum Awards poll. And as always, guys, thank you all for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.